It is now our pleasure to welcome in for another Matich Monday, and I'm guessing a fired-up Matich Monday at that. ESPN college football analyst and expert, insider, all-around good man, and a BYU national champion, Trevor Matich is back on the show following, frankly, a debacle in Austin, Trevor. So how would you wrap your mind around where in the world it went wrong for BYU? Where would you begin that conversation?
Well, I would start by acknowledging that this is a top 10 team. And I think Texas may well end up in the playoff. They're that good. They have a tough schedule to go to finish out, but they could very well make the playoffs. So we start there. But where it really starts and ends is two places. Generally, they start slow. Generally, they'll start with giving up a defensive touchdown to the opponent or a special teams touchdown like they did in this one with a punt return to Xavier Worthy, which was just a couple things went wrong there. And then the offense is very limited by the ability of the offensive line to run block. And so those things kind of combine to put them behind the curve and especially behind the chains.
You mentioned the offensive line and the run game specifically. Offensively, BYU's got massive issues. They have. We're hoping it'd be corrected. It has not been corrected quite yet. Where do you start the conversation and what the offense needs to do in the final 4 games of the regular season?
Well, the conversation starts in acknowledging what you can and can't do, not what you wish you could do. And this offensive line, they're not good run blockers as a group. And there are probably reasons for that, but the proof is on tape. They've been largely quite good in pass protection, except when they play a team like Texas. Texas, one of the best defensive fronts in the country, and they had a lot of good moments, the BYU offensive line, in protecting against that defensive front. And they blitzed, Texas did a fair amount, and there were times when those blitzes were picked up. And when those things happened, the passing game started to work a little bit. The problem is, it didn't happen consistently enough. And in between the times when the offensive line protected the quarterback well, there were plenty of times when they just got overwhelmed. So that's what you got. So now what do you do? So you talk about the creativity of it. And this is where, the offensive staff needs to work around those things. And they try, but they're limited by the fact that they've got a quarterback who is not particularly mobile. I love Keaton Slovis as a quarterback. He's a terrific pocket passer, and he's an elite leader. But he's not Zach Wilson. He's not Jaron Hall. He's not a guy that's going to fix the problem with poor pass protection by running around and making defensive pass rushers chase him all over the place from sideline to sideline. He's just not that guy. But if you give him protection, he's very, very good. And so now what do you do? So, there's things they can do from a creativity standpoint, move the pocket more. They can, employ more creative screen looks. And they tried to do that in this game a few times, and the execution was so poor by the players. I think they got away from some of that stuff. But these are some things that you need to do, just acknowledging that you're not going to get good pass protection. Your quarterback is not going to be able to fix it from a starting point in the pocket.
Trevor Matich of ESPN is on BYU Sports Nation. On the other side of the ball, it felt like the defense made enough plays, certainly up through that second red zone, 4th down stop, to try and at least give BYU a chance to win the game. Are we wrong to believe that the defense made enough plays to give BYU a legitimate chance to beat Texas?
The defense was magnificent. They were amazing. The special teams put them in a hole to start the game. The offense couldn't do much of anything, and yet the defense did a phenomenal job. I mean, 2 goal line stands, a 3rd red zone stop where they forced a turnover. It wasn't like a mistake by the offense and BYU was there to take advantage of it. They forced the turnover by getting into the backfield and stripping the ball and then recovering it when Texas had the ball on the 10-yard line for another potential score. As a matter of fact, Texas didn't really blow this thing open until an interception was returned down to the 8-yard line, and then there was another turnover that gave Texas another short field. Other than that, the BYU defense played lights out. So I would say not that they played well enough to give them a chance. They played well enough to win this game. And they got no help from any other phase of the game.
It's tough when the 4 TD drives from Texas offense only used 148 yards. That's tough. Felt like that we agreed. The defense did a really good job. Granted, you look at 35, you break it down, they did. Okay, back to the offense for a second. How long is the leash for Kedon Slovis until BYU mixes it up with Jake Retzloff to see if there's something, a different gear, a different option there?
Sometimes you make a switch at quarterback, not because your current quarterback isn't getting it done, but because your offensive line isn't good enough to protect him as a pocket passer, and you got to put in somebody who's a bit more mobile. And behind Kedon, there's a guy that's more mobile. At the same time, the only way for this offense to really move the ball consistently is chunk plays through the air. And Slovis is the guy who's developed the chemistry with a really good set of receiving core. I mean, really good. And I mean, Darius Lassiter, Chase Roberts, Keanu Hill, Cody Epps, a bunch of big, tall tight ends. These guys are good. Now, they could be more precise, some of them, in their routes, but they finish plays downfield. And you need a quarterback that'll know where to throw and can get him the ball there. And I still think that Kedon is the guy to be able to do that. At the same time, if he continues to be overwhelmed in the pocket, maybe you make a change, not because Kedon's not getting it done, but because you need a guy that can escape. And so we'll see how the offensive line does.
Trevor Matich of ESPN on BYU Sports Nation. Okay, now we turn the page and look ahead to West Virginia. BYU is now a 10-point underdog on the road in Morgantown. But, Trevor, it's a night game. Are you all in on BYU playing better at night? Because it certainly feels that way over the last 4 seasons. Will that help BYU in any way? Also, that West Virginia is maybe not as good as Texas.
Yeah, but West Virginia is really good.
True.
They won last week. They continue to get better as the season goes on. So does Iowa State, by the way, which is another team that people are pointing to that BYU might be able to pick up their 6th win. And West Virginia, Morgantown, is a really creepy, freaky, strange, weird place to play at night as well. And it'll be a great experience for BYU fans who go there because Morgantown at night is like no other place at night. It's not just intimidating and strange. It's also a little scary. It's a great environment. So West Virginia it would be a quality win for BYU if they're able to pull this out. But again, it comes down to what we've talked about before, guys, and the way that BYU needs to win. They need to win the turnover battle. They need to win the penalty battle, have fewer penalties. And they need to execute better. And against West Virginia, they're going to need to execute better on offense and on special teams. Let's just take a moment to describe where on special teams execution broke down against Texas that they need to improve on. It was that punt return for a touchdown in the first quarter. And it started out with poor execution because the punter kicked the ball not straight down the middle of the field, but almost down the middle of the field. He kicked it right along the punting team's left hash mark, right? So the returner, Xavier Worthy, had either direction to go, anything he wanted to do. Now, when you look at the end zone view of that play, you see the gunner went down and just flew right by the returner. He didn't break down, didn't make the returner slow down and make him juke him so his buddies had time to kind of catch up to a long punt. He just went flying right by him as if he wasn't there. So good. So BYU now is playing with 10 guys. 5 of the remaining guys were all lined up in a row to the left of the left hash. It looked to me expecting the ball to be punted over towards the left sideline. Well, when it wasn't punted toward the left sideline, they were already outflanked to the middle. So 5 guys are gone. Now you got the punter, 6, the gunner who ran by him, that's 7. Now you got 3 guys to cover the entire field from the left hash all the way to the right sideline. And that was just too big of a hole for those guys to cover. That's poor execution. If BYU tightens up things like that, they have a chance to win this game against West Virginia. If they do not, then BYU won't win another game this season.
I was just going to ask that question because it's certainly a tough November at West Virginia, Iowa State at home, Oklahoma at home, who certainly is vulnerable, but Kansas has shown they're pretty good, actually. And then, of course, at Oklahoma State, who looks awesome to end the season. BYU needs to win one more game to get a bowl game. We've asked a couple of times, what's the most winnable opportunity in the last 4, in your opinion?
This one, maybe Iowa State. I think Oklahoma has so much to play for, and they've got so much skill that the offense of BYU is going to need to catch up to a degree. Now, the Oklahoma defense has had trouble in recent weeks. And if BYU can protect the passer, BYU can move the ball and score some points and keep this thing close. Oklahoma State has been playing lights out. They have a legitimate Heisman candidate at running back in Ollie Gordon. He has been unstoppable in recent weeks once they started to figure out that they needed to commit to handing the ball to him. Another place where BYU's offense needs to grind out long drives and finish with touchdowns so that they don't get their defense worn out by the end of the third quarter. Iowa State has one of the best defenses in the Big 12. BYU's offense needs to execute better, right? And then you got this game at West Virginia. So if I were to pick two, you just look on paper, you look at West Virginia, maybe Iowa State, but every one of these teams is 5-3 or better, 5-3 or 5-3 or better. And so this is where you've got a situation where BYU just has to execute a whole lot better. And so I look right now at the possibility of making a bowl, and I think the same thing that I did when the season started. Given the schedule, given that it is BYU's first season in the Big 12, that the other legacy Big 12 teams have been recruiting to that conference for decades, and BYU is now recruiting to that conference for the first time, not even a full year. BYU to get to a bowl game would be a fantastic season. I still believe that with the times in this season that have been awful and ugly. If BYU can find a way to get one more win, I think we have to look at this as a magnificent overall coaching job by Kalani Sitake, and especially that defensive staff. And so I look at it that way. I just don't see an FCS school that should be penciled in as a win in the remaining schedule.
Trevor, your spooky, creepy reference was totally timely with it being Halloween week and all in reference to Morgantown. And in that line of thinking, what's your go-to Halloween candy on Halloween Eve and through this holiday?
Candy corn. There is only one correct answer to that, candy corn. Now, you can make a close second, any one of several different variations of peanut butter stuff, but peanut butter cups, Reese's Pieces, stuff like that. But if you don't put candy corn at number one, you've got no sense of history, no sense of value, no sense of what makes right in this country.
You saved your hottest take for the very end. I love it. Trevor, it's great to talk with you, man. Happy early Halloween, and we appreciate the clarity and the forthright nature of your commentary.
Thanks, guys.